The abduction. New York never really slept. Even at midnight, the city burned with neon glow, alive with noise, traffic, laughter, and chaos. For Tony Stark, however, tonight was supposed to be routine. A quick systems check on the latest suit upgrades, a fast patrol across Manhattan skies to test the flight stabilizers, and maybe, just maybe, he'd be back in the tower for a glass of scotch before Pepper noticed he was gone. "Jarvis, run a diagnostic sweep," Tony muttered inside the helmet as he cut across the skyline. His armor glimmered gold and red in the city lights, repulsors glowing as he soared above the river. "All systems optimal, sir," came the AI's familiar, calm reply. "Stabilizers are holding energy reserves at 98%. "Perfect. That means nothing should go wrong," Tony smirked. "Which means something's about to go horribly wrong." It was then the sky tore open. No warning. No signals. Just a sudden violent distortion in the air above Midtown Manhattan. The stars seemed to ripple, bend, and then collapse inward, as if the universe itself had been punched. A swirling black vortex unfurled across the night, glowing at its edges with sickly green and violet light. "Jarvis?" Tony asked sharply. "Unknown anomaly detected," the AI responded, voice clipped. "No matches in SHIELD's archives. Energy readings are unstable." Before Tony could respond, a beam lanced downward. It wasn't light, not entirely. It was energy, raw and alien, vibrating at a frequency that made his HUD scream with alerts. His armor's thrusters died instantly. Power systems froze. He felt like he was sinking in molasses, dragged down by invisible chains. "Not good," Tony hissed. The beam wrapped around him like a net. He struggled, blasting repulsors at full capacity, but the energy bent around his attacks, swallowing them whole. Jarvis flickered. His HUD glitched. For the first time in years, Stark felt the cold bite of helplessness. And then he was gone. The world of New York vanished in a flash of violet. Tony's consciousness faded in and out. He remembered only fragments, rushing through a tunnel of light, his body weightless, his armor sparking as alien power coursed through it. Voices he didn't recognize whispered in his ears, sharp and guttural, vibrating against his bones rather than his ears. When he came to, he was no longer flying. He was chained. The chamber around him was massive, stretching upward into shadows. Metallic walls pulsed faintly as though alive, veins of green light running across the surface. The air was thick, mechanical, humming with a strange rhythm. His armor was cracked. The left arm hung useless, sparks dripping from broken plating. His arc reactor still glowed faintly, but weak. And across from him stood something that could not have been born on Earth. It was tall, easily 9 feet, its body sheathed in jagged crystalline armor that shifted colors between violet and black. 4 eyes burned like dying stars in its skull-like face. Its arms, 4 of them, ended in hooked claws that gleamed with energy. When it spoke, the voice reverberated through the metal walls, cold and cruel. "Human." Tony lifted his head, coughing through the pain. "Alien. We gonna skip introductions, or do you actually have a name?" The creature stepped closer, its weight shaking the floor. "I am Zarkoth, of the Vorkar Dominion. And you?" His claw pressed against Tony's dented chest plate. "Our prey." Tony smirked weakly. "Sorry, Zarky, but I'm more of a predator guy. You'll need a bigger net next time." Zarkoth's eyes narrowed. He lifted one of his hands, and instantly, the chains binding Tony glowed. Energy surged through them, arcing into Stark's body like lightning. His suit convulsed. Sparks flew. Pain ripped through him. Tony screamed, biting down hard, refusing to give Zarkoth the satisfaction. The alien warlord leaned closer. "Your planet worships you as a protector. They see you as a savior. But here, in the void, there are no saviors. Only masters and slaves. You will break, and your people will kneel when I drag your corpse across their skies." "Sounds like a terrible PR campaign," Tony managed through gritted teeth. "Do yourself a favor. Hire a marketing team." Zarkoth snarled. The alien's claws dug into the wall, gouging deep scars into the living metal. "Defiance is meaningless. Already, the skies of your world darken. My fleets gather. This abduction is but the beginning." Tony forced his head up, despite the pain coursing through him. His HUD flickered back online for a split second, enough for him to catch a glimpse of alien energy nodes embedded in the chamber walls. He filed it away. "Weak spots. A plan. Always a plan. You're making one big mistake, ugly," he croaked, his voice steadier than his body felt. "You think I'm alone. But Earth doesn't break that easy. And me? I don't break at all." Zarkoth tilted his head, amused, then gestured. Two alien guards, hulking, insectoid creatures with jagged armor, stepped forward. One carried a whip of pure plasma, the other a jagged spear that hummed with energy. "Then let us see how long Iron Man endures." The first lash struck his armor, searing hot, sending electricity coursing through his body. He cried out, slamming against the chains. Sparks erupted. The guard struck again, and again. And through the pain, through the torment, Tony Stark did what he always did. He thought. He calculated. He planned. Because the moment he saw a crack in their armor, a glitch in their system, or a flaw in Zarkoth's confidence, he would strike. And when that happened, Iron Man would not just escape. He would make them regret ever laying a claw on him. Torture of the Titan. The chamber pulsed with a sickly green glow, alive with strange organic veins that ran across the metallic walls. The air hummed with energy, each vibration digging into Tony Stark's bones. He hung suspended by chains made not of steel, but of a living alloy that seemed to shift and tighten whenever he strained against them. His armor, cracked and broken, sputtered with faint sparks, shadows of the power that once made him invincible. Zarkoth stepped forward, his 4 crystalline arms glistening with otherworldly light. His towering frame radiated cruelty, every step echoing like a thunderclap through the chamber. His voice cut the silence, deep and resonant, yet chillingly calm. "You thought yourself a titan of your world, Stark," Zarkoth growled, his mandibles clicking. "But here, in the grasp of the X-Orkai Dominion, you are nothing but a fragile creature inside broken metal." Tony smirked, despite the pain clawing at his chest. "Fragile? Buddy, I've been called worse by the press." His sarcasm masked the unease that churned in his gut, but he knew stalling was his only weapon, for now. Zarkoth raised a jagged arm, and a swarm of tendrils slithered from the walls, alive with energy. They wrapped around Iron Man's armor, probing its seams, sending jolts of plasma surging through him. The arc reactor flared, struggling to stabilize, while Stark's teeth clenched against the burn ripping through his veins. "Human technology," Zarkoth sneered, "so reliant on fragile cores and artificial sparks. I will break you, Stark, and through you, break the spirit of your people." The tendrils tightened, peeling parts of the armor away like a predator stripping its prey. Sparks showered the floor as one of Iron Man's gauntlets was wrenched off, revealing his bloodied hand beneath. Tony gasped but forced a grin. "You know," he muttered through shallow breaths, "I don't usually let people take apart my suits on the first date." The Warlord's eyes glowed brighter, his patience thinning. He extended his lower arms, crystalline claws crackling with concentrated energy. A beam of gravitational force slammed into Iron Man's chest, crushing him against the chains. Pain shot through Tony's ribs. Something cracked. His HUD flickered inside the shattered helmet, feeding him warnings. Vitals unstable. Structural integrity, 23%. But beneath the torment, Tony's mind raced. Every surge of energy, every resonance of the chamber, every flicker of Zarkoth's abilities. He was cataloging it all. Torture could break his body, but information was his weapon. Zarkoth leaned close, his crystalline face reflecting the dim glow of Tony's failing arc reactor. Your world thinks you are a savior. I will make them watch as I reduce you to ash. And when they see their titan broken, they will kneel. Tony spat blood onto the floor, his smirk unwavering. Funny thing about me, big guy, kneeling isn't my style. The alien warlord growled and signaled to his insectoid guards. They activated plasma whips, their crackling edges searing through the air as they lashed across Iron Man's body. Sparks burst as the armor peeled away further, revealing more flesh beneath the wreckage. Tony gritted his teeth, refusing to give Zarkoth the satisfaction of a scream. Each lash was fire, but within the torment, Tony noticed something. The whips resonated with the same plasma frequency that fueled the chamber. The chamber wasn't just a prison. It was alive, feeding on the pain, amplifying energy through Stark's suffering. "Ah," Tony whispered, a painful grin tugging at his lips. "So that's your trick. You're using me as a battery." Zarkoth tilted his head, surprised by Stark's clarity even under torture. "You comprehend much, but too late. Your brilliance will die with you. Or," Tony coughed, "it just gives me one more reason to shut you down." He focused on the arc reactor's readings, flickering, unstable, but still alive. If he could push it into overload, redirect its unstable energy into the chamber's veins, he might disrupt the system. But doing so could cost him his life. The whips lashed again. His body convulsed. His vision blurred. The chains tightened, cutting into his shoulders. Yet deep within the agony, the mind of Tony Stark, the futurist, the builder, the man who turned scraps in a cave into salvation, kept working. "You know," Tony rasped, his voice weak but sharp, "I've been tortured by terrorists, outsmarted gods, and fought titans. But you, Zarkoth, you're not the first monster to underestimate me. You'll just be the latest mistake." Zarkoth's crystalline jaw tightened. He raised his arms again, energy building into a devastating surge meant to shatter Tony's reactor entirely. Tony, bloodied but unbroken, whispered under his breath, "Friday, reroute all remaining power into me." The HUD flickered one last time. Energy surged into his veins as the arc reactor pulsed violently. His armor sparked back to life for a fleeting moment, glowing brighter than before, fighting against the chains. The chamber trembled, the walls groaning under the unstable overload. Zarkoth paused, realizing too late what Stark was doing. "This ends one of two ways," Tony whispered with a smirk. "Either I fry, or you do." The room erupted in violent light. Sparks of defiance. The alien chamber quaked as arcs of unstable energy rippled through its pulsating walls. Zarkoth staggered back, crystalline claws raised defensively, his many eyes narrowing at the humans still chained before him. Tony Stark's battered armor glowed like a dying star, his arc reactor flickering wildly, casting jagged shadows across the room. For a moment, it looked like Stark would collapse, broken, burned, finished. But then, through the haze of pain, he raised his head. His eyes, bloodshot but unyielding, locked on Zarkoth. "You wanted a titan?" he rasped. "Well, congratulations. You just woke him up." The chains clamped harder as if the chamber itself sensed rebellion. Sparks tore across Iron Man's chest plate, each surge of power threatening to overload his body. Tony gritted his teeth. He'd done this dance before, walking the razor's edge between brilliance and self-destruction. This time was no different. He whispered, "Friday, final override. Dump every jewel into me. No safeties." The AI crackled weakly in his helmet, her voice broken but resolute. "Tony, this could kill you." "Yeah," Tony muttered, his smirk returning even through the blood on his lips. "But it'll kill him first." The arc reactor flared, brighter than it had since the day it was built. Bolts of white-blue energy burst outward, coursing into the chains, searing through the alien alloy. The chamber screamed, its living walls recoiling like a wounded beast. Zarkoth snarled, his crystalline form shimmering with rage. "Impossible! You cannot resist me, human!" "Newsflash," Stark grunted as the chains began to crack. "I do impossible before breakfast." With a final surge, the chains shattered. Tony fell hard onto the chamber floor, sparks cascading around him. His armor was a wreck, but his spirit was unbroken. He pushed himself up slowly, blood dripping down his jaw, the glow of the arc reactor blazing through the smoke. The insectoid guards lunged, plasma whips cracking in the air. Tony raised his half-melted gauntlet, redirecting the unstable reactor's energy. A blast of raw power erupted, vaporizing one guard instantly, the other hurled into the chamber wall where it dissolved into ash. Tony staggered but stood tall. "Guess I still pack a punch." Zarkoth roared, his crystalline armor refracting into dazzling light as he summoned a gravitational storm. Shards of metal and debris lifted into the air, spinning violently. The Warlord's voice boomed, shaking the chamber. "You are nothing before the Dominion. I will tear the marrow from your bones." Yeah, Tony muttered, steadying himself as objects smashed around him. "Heard the same speech from Thanos, Loki, even a robot I built myself. Spoiler alert, they all lost." With trembling hands, he rerouted the last reserves of his reactor into his chest plate. His HUD screamed red alerts, but he ignored them. A sphere of unstable energy built around him, humming like a caged sun. Zarkoth lunged, claws tearing through the air, gravity bending in his wake. But Tony launched himself forward, thrusters sparking, energy surging. At the last second, he redirected the overload into his gauntlet and slammed his fist into the alien warlord's chest. The impact was catastrophic. Energy exploded outward, tearing through Zarkoth's crystalline body. Cracks split across his form like shattered glass. He screamed, a sound that shook the chamber, as light burst from within him. Tony, panting, forced one last quip. "That's for Manhattan, you crystal-faced jerk." Zarkoth staggered, his massive frame fracturing, until finally he collapsed into a pile of glowing shards that dissolved into dust. The gravitational storm ended instantly, debris clattering lifelessly to the ground. Silence fell. Tony dropped to his knees, his armor smoking, the arc reactor dimming dangerously. The chamber walls shuddered, veins of alien light sputtering and going dark. Without Zarkoth, the system had no master. It was dying. He exhaled, every muscle screaming, every nerve on fire. Not bad, for a guy in a tin can. From above, a crack in the alien hull opened, revealing the faint glimmer of Earth sky beyond the prison ship. Tony's lips curled into a weary grin. Home sweet home. He activated the last functional thruster on his boot, sparks spitting wildly. It wasn't much, but it was enough to push him toward the opening. As he rose, battered and bloodied but victorious, he whispered, "They'll never break us. Not me. Not Earth. Not humanity." The chamber collapsed behind him, consumed in fire and smoke. But Iron Man flew on, a trail of sparks marking his defiance against the void. For Tony Stark, survival wasn't just personal. It was human. It was what made them unstoppable.